Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. We start our second lecture today of Business Math 1. First we will review what we have done in our last lecture. In our last lecture we have studied the equations, their basic concepts, and we have defined the equations with the help of algebraic expression. What do we mean by a variable? What is an equation? And what do we mean by a solution of an equation? Further, we have discussed that what do we mean by a solution set of an equation. Then we studied the types of equations, particularly the polynomial equations. Then we studied the equivalent equations, that under what operations the equations are equivalent and under what operations the equations are not equivalent. Then we learned the techniques of solving the first degree equations in one variable. Also we learned the techniques of solving the second degree equation in one variable. Up to now we have only restricted ourselves to solve the equations in one variable. Now the solving of first degree equations in one variable was rather easy, but let us quickly revise how we can solve the second degree equation in one variable. Mainly we have discussed two methods. One was by factorization and one by using the quadratic formula. In quadratic formula or by factorization, we come to know that we experience three types of roots or solution. Either the roots are real and distinct, or the root is only one real root, that is, we usually say it is a repeated root, or we say that there exists no real root. And in our last lecture we have seen with the help of examples, first by using the factorization method and second by using the quadratic formula, of different cases when we have real distinct roots, second case when we have equal roots or one real root, and the third case when we have no real root. Now we start our today's lecture. Today's lecture basically consists of three main topics. Today we will discuss inequalities, intervals, and how we can solve the inequalities. Okay, let us start our first definition. By inequality we mean that they express the condition that two quantities are not equal. It is clear that something is not equal means they are not comparable. So, and they are mathematically denoted by the symbol less than equals to and greater than equals to. Either two things are, when we compare two things, either one of them is greater than the first thing or one of them is less than the other thing. If we look at the examples in a mathematical way, we say that 3 is less than 5. We all know that 3 is always less than 5. How we write it mathematically? With the symbol 3 less than 5. And we say that 3 is less than 5. If we want to say that one quantity is greater than the other quantity, for example, if x is our variable denoting some quantity, and we say that that quantity, that symbol is greater than 100, then we write it x greater than 100 with this sign, and x is greater than 100. We can also compare more than two things at a same time. For example, if we say that 0 is less than y is less than 50, means we are comparing the values of y or the variable y between 0 and 50. How we will say this mathematical notation that y is greater than 0 and less than 50. When we have more than two inequalities in our expression, then we use the word and in between, that both of them are satisfying at the same time, that y is greater than 0, it's true, and other side is showing that y is less than 50. Now we further classify our inequalities as strict inequalities and non-strict inequalities. For example, if we say that x is less than y, then in any case x is surely less than y. X cannot be equal to y. Then strict inequalities are those statements in which items are never equal to one another. How we can understand this concept with the help of examples? First, we will look at three types of strict inequalities. Like in the case of equation, we also have three types of strict inequalities. First one is the absolute inequality. That is those inequalities which are always true. For example, we take our previous examples of inequalities. That is 3 is less than 5. We all know that the number 3 is always less than number 5. So these type of inequalities are always true, and they are classified in the term of absolute inequality. Then we have second type of inequalities as the conditional inequality. That is, the inequality is true with respect to some condition. In other words, inequality is not always true but only under certain conditions. For example, x is greater than 100 is a clear example of conditional inequality. Then we have double inequalities. For example, if we look at our previous example, 0 is less than y is less than 50. This inequality consists of two inequalities comparing y with two terms at the same time, and we call this inequality as double inequality. So the main question is why we need these inequalities. We need these inequalities to compare the quantities, and we can represent this comparison on our real line. If we have two real numbers a and b, then we can compare these real numbers on our real line. If we have two quantities a and b, then there are only maximum three possibilities of relation between a and b. Either a is equals to b, or a is less than b, or b is less than a. As we can see that when we have the comparison that the two quantities are equal, that is a is equals to b, actually we are having an equation. And how we can represent this a is equals to b on the real line? We have our real line extended on both ways, and our both quantities a and b are represented by the same point on the real line. The next possibility is that is a is less than b. Then in that case we see that if we have a real line, then a will be always pointed or located on the left of b, the lower one on the left side and the bigger one on the right side. The third possibility was that a is greater than b. Then in that case, if we look at our real line, b will be located on the left side and a will be located on the right side. That is how we represent our quantities on the real line, that the lower one on the left side and the bigger one on the right side. If the quantities are equal, we represent them on the same point. We locate them on the same point. Now we see that there are also inequalities which are non-strict. We have seen that there are inequalities which are strict, which are of three types: absolute inequality, conditional inequality and double inequality. But what happens if one quantity is less than the second quantity and also at some time equal to the second quantity? Then the statements in which one item can be equal to the other item are called non-strict inequalities. We have some symbol to represent them. They are denoted by the symbols less than, equals to, that is the sign with less than with a lower bar, and greater than equals to, that is the sign of greater than with a lower bar underneath. Now we look at some examples of inequalities and non-strict inequalities. First we have x plus 3 is greater than equals to 15. Here we have the sign greater than equals to in between, which means that x plus 3 is greater than or equals to 15. Now we have two possibilities, either x plus 3 is greater than 15 or x plus 3 is equals to 15. We have second example, when y is less than equals to x, which means that how we interpret this non-strict inequality, that either y is less than x or y is equals to x. We can note down from these two examples, and we will see in the third example as well, that whenever we have non-strict inequalities, we have the sign or in between. We use the word or in between. That is, either x plus 3 is greater than 15 or equals to 15. One of the two possibilities it always hold. We look at our third example, which is a double inequality. A is less than equals to x is less than b. And how we interpret this, which I already said, that x is greater than or equal to a. On the left side we can see there is a non-strict inequality, less than equals to, which means that x is either greater than a or equals to a. Then we look at the right side of the inequality, which says that x is less than b. Then for the double inequality we use this word and in between, which says that x is greater than or equal to a, and at the same time x is less than b. How we can represent this double inequality on our real line? If a and b are two real numbers, then the double inequality says that x is either greater than a or equals to a. Then definitely a will locate or lie on the left side of x. The second condition we know from x is that x is less than b. Then definitely b will lie on the right side of x, which means that we have this kind of interval, that is, x lies between a and b, but from the right side we can see there is a bracket which is open, and on the left side we can see there is a bracket which is a square bracket, which says that, or which shows that from the left side the quantity x is closed and from the right side the quantity x is open. We will look in detail what does these brackets mean and what do we mean by the quantity closed or open. For this, now we come to our next topic, which is the interval notation. These are basically the representations of preparation of our interval notation, that is, what do we mean by an interval and how we represent our interval on a real line. Now, with the help of our previous example, we now define the interval notations and their meanings. So first we define the interval mathematically. An interval is the set of numbers that lies between two numbers a and b. That is, if a and b are two numbers, particularly the real numbers, then interval is the set of all points lying between a and b. They can be specified using the following notation. How we will define an interval, and we use this bracket open from the left side a comma b, close it from the right side, which is equals to x, such that a is less than x is less than b, or in other words x is greater than a and less than b. That is, the interval AB contains all those values x which lie between A and B. So, why we have used these particular brackets to represent an interval? These particular brackets, round ones, they represent an open interval, which means that the endpoint values A and B are not included in the interval. That is, x is always greater than A and always less than B. If we want to include the endpoints, then we define a closed interval with the square bracket A comma B square bracket closed, which shows that the endpoints A and B are also included. Always remember that A is less than B. Whenever we want to write an interval, either open interval or a closed interval with a square bracket and open interval with a round bracket, the quantity on the left side always is a lower one. That is, the quantity on the left side represents the lower symbol and the quantity on the right side is the bigger one. Now, how we can write this closed interval mathematically? Square bracket open A comma B square bracket closed is equals to x such that A is less than equals to x is less than equals to B. That is, all those values of x which are greater than A or equal to A, and from the right side which are less than B or equals to B. So here we have used a double inequality with a non-strict inequality. Now, if one quantity is open from one side and closed from the other side, we call them as half open intervals, which include one endpoint but not the other endpoint. For example, we have two types of half open intervals. Half open from the left side, which is round bracket open A comma B, and it is closed from the right side, so we will use the square bracket, is equals to x such that all those values of x which are strictly greater than A, here we have used the round bracket on the left side, and less than or equals to B. The square bracket shows that the quantity we are comparing is less than or equals to B, and the round bracket shows that the quantity we are comparing is strictly greater than or less than that quantity. Okay, if we want to include our left endpoint and we don't want to include our right endpoint, it will be our half open interval in this way, that is, square bracket from the left side and round bracket from the right side. So square bracket open A comma B round bracket close is x such that all those values of x which are strictly greater than A or equals to A. Remember, we have our square bracket on the left side, so here we will use our non-strict inequality, and we have our round bracket on the right side, so here we will use our strict inequality, that is, all those values of x which are strictly greater than A or equals to A and strictly less than B. In these four ways we define these are the four types of our intervals. We have open interval, which means that endpoints are not included from both sides. We have round brackets on the both endpoints. Closed interval, in which we have endpoints, we have included our endpoints and denoted by our square brackets on both sides. Half open intervals, if it is open from the left side, so round bracket on the left side, and closed from the right side, so square bracket on the right side. Half open interval, if it is open from the right side, so round bracket on the right side, and closed from the left side means square bracket from the left side. So how we can represent our intervals on the real line? Our four types of intervals on our real line. The first one was the open interval. We have, as you have already seen, that there are round brackets on the both endpoints, which means that the quantity x is strictly greater than a and strictly less than b, lying between a and b. If we want to represent our closed interval, which means that we are including our endpoints, so you should always immediately think that including endpoints or closed intervals, so square brackets, which means that x is greater than a or equals to a, including the left endpoint, and at the same time x is less than b or equals to b, including our right endpoint. So our half open interval, open from the left side means round bracket, closed from the right side means square bracket on the right side, and x is greater than a and less than equals to b. The other half open interval, open from the right side and closed from the left side, means x is greater than or equals to a and less than b. Okay, now we will do a small exercise, that how we can, if we are given an interval, how we can represent our interval on our real line. The first one, we are given with -2 and 1. Here a is -1, b is, here a is -2 and b is 1. You can see the brackets on our endpoints, both are round brackets, which means that the quantity the number -2 is not included. Also the number 1 on the right hand side is also not included. So if we give a rough sketch of this interval on the real line, we have 1, 0, -1, -2, and both of them are not included. Second, we want to give an example of a closed interval, 1 to 3, with both endpoints a is equals to 1, b is equals to 3 included. Then we have 1, 2, 3 on our real line, and both the endpoints are included. Third is our example of half open interval, with open from the right side and closed from the left side. Here a is equals to -3 and b is equals to -1. So we have sketched -3, -2, -1, and as we can see with our red dotted line, that how our interval is represented on the real line, only between -3 to -1, with closed from the left side, that is including -3, and open from the right side, that is not including -1. So this was the small exercise of getting to know that given an interval, how we can sketch this interval on our real line, or what does it mean geometrically. Now we will see how we can solve our inequalities. Now to solve an inequality is very similar to solve an equation, which we have discussed in our last lecture, that we use some equivalent equations, and if an equation is known or the solution is known, we stop there. What is our aim basically? We attempt to determine the set values satisfying the inequality. That is, we want to find the values which satisfy the inequality, or in other words, we want to find a solution set which satisfy this inequality, or the particular values of the symbol or the variable x or y, whatever it is, which satisfy this inequality. So how we solve our inequality, the main idea is that we isolate our variable on one side of the inequality using our algebraic operations. The same process or same procedure which we have done in solving our equations, that is, we isolate our variable on one side of the equation and the constants on the other side until we reach to an equivalent equation. So we isolate our variable on one side of the inequality and the constants on the other side using some algebraic operations until the inequality is very clear. So what are these basically algebraic operations? We have some rules of inequalities, that is the rules which or the algebraic operations which we apply to our inequality. The inequality remain the same, or the inequality is in the same sense. So our rule 1, if the same number is added or subtracted from both sides of an inequality, the resulting inequality has the same sense as the original one. For example, if we want to add, if we have an inequality a is less than b and c is some number which we want to add on both sides, then a plus c will always be less than b plus c. And if we want to subtract this number c from both sides, then a minus c will always less than b minus c. We will use this rule many times in solving our inequalities. Our second rule is that if both sides of an inequality are multiplied or divided by the same positive number, remember here we have focused on the positive number, which means that something goes wrong when we multiply or divide our inequality with a negative number. So we have an inequality a is less than b and we want to multiply or divide our inequality with some positive number. Then what happens to our inequality? Does it remain in the same sense or it have the reverse sense? The resulting inequality has the same sense as the original one. So what do we mean by our rule 2 symbolically? That if we have an inequality a is less than b and we have some number c positive, remember we have focused or emphasized on c to be positive, the number we are multiplying or dividing. Then if we multiply this number c on both sides of our inequality, then AC will always be less than BC. And in the same sense, if we divide our positive number to the inequality a less than b, then a over c will always be less than b over c. We use this rule as well many times in solving our inequalities. Now we have our third rule, that the natural question arises that what happens when we multiply or divide our inequality with a negative number, because in our rule 2 we have focused on multiplying or dividing with a number only positive. So rule 3 says that if both sides of an inequality are multiplied or divided by the same negative number, then the resulting inequality has the reverse sense of the original one. What do we mean by the reverse sense here? We understand it with the help of symbols, that if our inequality is a is less than b and we have some negative number c to which we want to multiply or divide our inequality, then again look at the given inequality. We have a is less than b and c is negative. If we multiply the c with our inequality, then our inequality will have the reverse sense, means if it was less than before, it will shift into greater than, or if it was greater than before, it will shift into less than, means the sign of the inequality will be reversed, or the comparison between the two quantities will be opposite. Here we are given that a is less than b. After multiplying with a negative number, we say that AC is greater than BC. It will no longer be less than BC, as we have seen in our rule 2 or rule 1. The same happens when we divide our inequality with a negative number, that A over C will be greater than B over C. Now we have our rule 4, that if any side of an inequality is replaced by an expression equal to it, then the inequality has the same sense. What do we mean by this? That if we have an equality A is less than B, and we know that the number A representing something is equals to C, we know some specific value of A, then it is equivalent to say that C is less than B. That is, if in this case we are replacing the value of A by an expression which is equal to A. So now we come to our rule 5. Rule 5 says that if the sides of the inequality are both positive or both negative, then their reciprocals are unequal in the reverse sense. Sounds a bit strange or difficult to understand, so let's have a look at what do we mean by it symbolically. For example, if we have one inequality 2 is less than 4, we can see both sides of the inequality are positive, or if both should be negative, then their reciprocal. What do we mean by the reciprocal? 1 by 2, and reciprocal of 4 is 1 by 4. Then what will be the relation between their reciprocals? We have a relation between 2 and 4, that we know 2 is less than 4. So what is the relation between their reciprocals is that the reciprocal of the left side will be greater than the reciprocal of the right side. That is, 1 by 2 will be greater than 1 by 4. If we have an inequality, let's say 4 is less than 5, or consider an inequality 4 is greater than 3, then in that case what will happen to the reciprocal inequality? That 1 by 4 will be less than 1 by 3. Or if we want to write it the other side, that is, we know 4 is greater than 3, so what is the reciprocal of 4 is 1 by 4, and what is the reciprocal of 3 is 1 by 3, then 1 by 4 will be less than 1 by 3. Okay, so we have seen that what happens if two quantities, one quantity is greater than the other quantity in rule 5, that if 4 is greater than 3, then what is the relation between their reciprocals? 1 by 4 is less than 1 by 3. Now we have rule 6. Rule 6 says that if both sides of an inequality are positive and raised to the same positive power, then the resulting inequality has the same sense as the original one. That is, the comparison will be of the same kind. What do we mean by this symbolically? That if we have an equality A is less than B, and both sides of an inequality are positive, means 0 is less than A is less than B, which means that A is greater than 0 and B is greater than 0. Here we have used the double inequality to define our rule 6. And if we raise the inequality to the positive power, let's say n is the power we want to raise our inequality, and n is positive, then an will be less than b to the power n. A to the power n will be less than b to the power n. We don't need this second time. Okay. So now we have studied 6 rules that how we can solve our inequality and what happens if we add something same to our inequality, subtract something, multiply by some positive number, divide, and again multiply and divide by a negative number, and so if we raise them by a power. Now we will look at some examples that how we will use our rules to solve these inequalities. First we have our inequality 3x plus 10 is less than equals to, I hope you are good enough to remember this sign by now, that this sign represents the non-strict inequality less than equals to. So our question is 3x plus 10 is less than equals to 5x minus 4. We will use our rules, not all 6 of them at the same time, but whatever is needed one by one to solve this inequality. This inequality, we should notice one thing, is an inequality in one variable only x. So it is a linear inequality. Okay, how we will use our rules to find the solution of this inequality, or the values or the interval where this inequality really holds. Okay, we start with our applying our rules. First, what we have used our rule 1, that is we have added 4 on both sides of the inequality. What we get, 3x plus 10 plus 4 is less than equals to, as we have seen in rule 1, that adding the same number on both sides of the inequality does not affect on the inequality sense. So we have less than equals to 5x minus 4 plus 4, and simplify this step, we obtain that 3x plus 14 is less than equals to 5x. So what was our method to solve the inequalities? That is, we have to isolate the variables on one side and constants on the other side of the inequality. So we still have variable 3x on one side and 5x on the other side. So we have to add or subtract 3x or subtract 5x to make them on one side of the inequality. How we do it? We again use our rule 1, that is we subtract 3x from both sides of our inequality. So after simplifying, on the left side we obtain 14 and on the right side we obtain 2x. Now this is the simplest form of the inequality we can obtain. Now we will use our rule 2, that is we are dividing both sides of the inequality by a positive number. Here the positive number is 2. So on the left side we obtain 7 and on the right side we obtain x. So the simplest form after solving this linear inequality, or the inequality in one variable, we obtain that 7 is less than equals to x, or in other words, x is greater than or equals to 7. So what will be the solution of this inequality? That is, the values of x which are greater than or equals to 7, they will definitely satisfy this inequality. For example, if x is equals to 7, the inequality will hold. If x is equals to 8, and so on, all these values of x will satisfy this inequality. And if we want to write our solution set in the form of an interval, we write it as 7 comma infinity, that is on the right hand side we are going up to no limit, and whenever we write infinity we always use our round bracket, that is we do not include this infinity. And from the right side we can see that this is a non-strict inequality, that is 7 is less than equals to x. So on the left side we will use our square bracket. We have a look at another example. that is 6x minus 10 is greater than equals to 6x plus 4. There is one thing to look at our first example, that this inequality or the solution set of the inequality shows us that this inequality is a conditional inequality. That is, there are only particular values of x which satisfy this inequality. For example, if we take x is equals to 6, this inequality will not hold. Then we have our second example, 6x minus 10 is greater than equals to 6x plus 4. So how we will solve our inequality? The easiest thing is to use our rule 1 or rule 2. That is, we are using our rule 1 and we are adding 10 on both sides of the inequality. So after simplifying, we obtain 6x is greater than equals to 6x plus 14. Now our next step is to shift this 6x or the variables on one side of the inequality. Again we will use our rule 1, that is, this time we are subtracting 6x from both sides, and after simplifying we obtain on the left side 0 and on the right side 14, which says that 0 is greater than equals to 14, which is not true. This shows that this type of inequality was the false inequality. That is, the solution set shows us that these values never hold. Now we consider another question, that is 4x plus 6 is greater than equals to 4x minus 3. This one looks similar to our second example. We will use our rule 1 again, that is, we are adding 3 on both sides, and after simplifying we obtain 4x plus 9 is greater than equals to 4x. Again using rule 1, we obtain that 9 is greater than equals to 0, which we know that is always true. So this solution tells us that this type of inequality is an absolute inequality. Next example, we have our double inequality here, that is minus 2x plus 1 is less than equals to x is less than equals to 6 minus x. How we will simplify our inequality? First we will solve our left side inequality, that is minus 2x plus 1 is less than equals to x, and here again we will use one of our rule from 1 to 6 at one time and simplify the things. First we are using rule 1, that is, we are adding 2x on both sides, and we obtain after simplification 1 is less than equals to 3x. Now we are using rule 2, that is, we are dividing the inequality by a positive number. So what we obtain after simplification is 1 by 3 is less than equals to x. So after solving the left side of the inequality, first we obtain that x is greater than 1 by 3 or equals to 1 by 3. Now we come to the right side of our double inequality, which was x is less than equals to 6 minus x, and after using our rule 1, that is adding x on both sides, on the left side we obtain 2x is less than equals to 6, and now this next thing which comes in our mind is that we will use our rule 2, dividing the inequality by a positive number. We obtain after simplification x is less than equals to 3. So the solution of this double inequality is we have solved the left side first and then the right side, and now we will combine these two solutions, that is 1 by 3 is less than equals to x and x is less than equals to 3, to obtain that under which conditions or under which points this inequality hold. Then combining both we obtain this solution, and if we want to write our solution in the interval form, we can see that in this double inequality we have less than equals to on both sides, which means that 1 by 3 is included and also 3 is included. So square brackets on both sides and 1 by 3 comma 3 is the solution of our this double inequality. Now we will see how we can solve our second degree inequalities. What do we mean by a second degree inequality? That is the algebraic expressions which involve the polynomial of degree 2. Now if our inequality involves a higher order algebraic expression, we can solve the inequality by factorizing it. First we will see how we can solve the higher order algebraic expression by a second degree inequality. For example, if we understand how we solve our second degree inequality, we can solve our higher degree inequalities as well. Now the solution of this inequality, or the interval where the inequality holds, will be determined by considering different cases. So let's look at our example. We have x squared minus 5x plus 6 is less than equals to 0. This is an inequality of second degree. As we have learned in our first lecture that whenever we have a quadratic equation, we can either factorize it or solve it by using the quadratic formula. Here we are factorizing it and we obtain the factors x minus 3 into x minus 2 is less than equals to 0. Now we have a product of two terms which is less than or equals to 0. So we obtain two possibilities. The first possibility is that either x minus 3, one term, is less than equals to 0, or x minus 2, the second term, is less than equals to 0. With this we have further first condition, that if x minus 3 is less than equals to 0, this gives us that either x minus 3 is equals to 0 and x minus 3 is less than 0. After simplifying, we obtain x is equals to 3 and x is less than 3. Now we look at our second condition, which shows x minus 2 is less than equals to 0, which gives us further that x minus 2 is equals to 0 and x minus 2 is less than 0, and after simplification we obtain that x is equals to 2 and x is less than 2. So our first condition was that x minus 3 is less than 0. If we look at our factors, that we have a product of two factors which is less than 0, then the first condition, x minus 3 less than 0, ensures that the second factor should be positive. We have a product of two terms negative, x minus 3 and x minus 2 negative, then one of the term will be positive and the other term will be negative. So if x minus 3 is negative, then the second factor x minus 2 should be positive. Solving this inequality, we obtain that x is greater than 2 and x is less than 3. Second condition gives us that x minus 2 factor was less than 0, which gives us that the second factor x minus 3 is positive, and after simplification we see that x is greater than 3 and x is less than 2. So combining all these inequalities, we see that the interval of solution, or the points where this inequality holds, is the closed interval 2 to 3, that is including endpoint 2 and including endpoint 3. Let's have a look at another example. We have x squared minus 2x minus 15 is greater than 0. Immediately we will factorize first. The factors are x minus 5 and x plus 3. We have here the product of two terms positive. So we obtain our first condition. The first factor x minus 5 is positive and the second factor x plus 3 is positive, which further gives us that x is greater than 5 and x is greater than minus 3. So here we have a product of two terms positive. So either both the factors are positive or both the factors are negative, which gives us our second condition, that factor x minus 5 is negative and the factor x minus 3 is negative. After simplification, we obtain that x is less than 5 and x is less than minus 3. So the question is, what will be the interval of this solution? If we have our real line and we have points x is greater than 5, means x is greater than 5, this portion, and x is greater than -3, if -3 is here, means all this. The second condition gives us that x is less than 5 and x is less than -3, means, and x is less than -3 means this point onwards. So our solution is -infinity to -3 union 5 to infinity. That is, this portion is not included in our solution, and we have a union of two intervals as a solution, open from both sides, because we have only inequalities, strict inequalities, -infinity to -3, and the second one is 5 to infinity. Okay, now we summarize our today's lecture. What we have studied today, we have basically studied inequalities and the ways how we can solve our inequalities. We have learned the definition of inequality, strict inequalities with some examples, and then we have seen three types of strict inequalities, which are absolute inequality, conditional inequality, and double inequality. Then we have seen the real line representation of these inequalities, that is how we can represent these inequalities geometrically on our real line. Then we studied the definition of non-strict inequality with few examples. Then we learned the interval notation, what do we mean by an interval, what is the use of an interval, and the different types of intervals, particularly open interval, closed interval, and half open intervals, which are of two types, that is, first open from the left side and the second one open from the right side, and the notations how we can write our intervals, the brackets we use to write our intervals. We have also seen the graphical representation of intervals, that how we can use our real line to represent all these four types of intervals. Then we have learned the rules to solve an inequality, the 6 rules of solving an inequality, which are widely used, particularly rule 1 and rule 2, and how the inequality changes its sense, that is in the same sense or in the reverse sense. Then we have seen some examples where we have calculated the interval or the solution set of the inequality by using our 6 rules, one at the same time, and simplifying that whether the inequality is true or absolute or conditional. We have also seen an example of double inequality in one variable. Further, we have seen how we can solve our inequality in second degree equation, in second degree variable, that is when we have a polynomial x square. And we can see that it is not necessary that the interval is only from a finite one composed of one point to the other. We may have a union of two intervals as a solution set. And I hope the students, you have understood today's lecture very well. What we will discuss in our next lecture, that is lecture 3, the main topics will be our absolute value and its relationship, and when we have an absolute value in our inequality particularly, or equality, how we can solve these questions. Further, in next lecture we will see how we can use our rectangular coordinate system and the ways we can plot them, our real line, our 2 points in a plane, how we can plot them in a rectangular coordinate system. With this we end our today's lecture. Allah Hafiz.